What's up, guys? Keith here, Two Guys How To. June is over there at the garage getting ready to get busy on these U-joints. Today we're doing the U-joints. We're actually doing the carry bearing, but we're going to show you the U-joints on this big old F350 right there. You can see it, big old 4-door, 8-foot bed. So the carrier bearing was a little bit eaten up on the bushings in there, and the U-joint right behind it is bad. So we're just going to go ahead and do the whole rear axle, the rear drive shaft area of the U-joints, which is a total of 3. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to do this. All right, so we're onto the truck. You got your main drive shaft coming out of your transfer case. He's got, what do you got, a 6.12 mil or 12.12 mil to break these bolts here that hold this the transmission, or the shaft that comes out of the transfer case to the actual drive shaft here. And you can see right here is your carrier bearing. This is what we mean by the carrier bearing. It's got 2 bolts up into this mount here, and the drive shaft's so long it comes up through the carrier bearing, hits another U-joint, goes back way down there, and we've got our 3rd and final U-joint back there. So we're gonna start by undoing the front here. This is coming out of the transfer case, and we're gonna get this down, get a little closer for you. He's gonna undo those 4 bolts and then make our way back to the back, or possibly do this and rope it off.
Use the 12-point.
And you can see why you need a 12-point socket. Let's get it down here. Maybe even out here you can see a little better. Whoops. It's hard to see either way. Let's let the camera focus in, and you can see how many sides are on that particular bolt there. So you need a special 12-point socket to get into this bolt here. And there's 4 of those. There's plenty of room under here. He's got it jacked up, but you can see here the cause of the problem here. When I shake this thing, the rubber inside there is just beat up. You see it moving right there when he's shaking it, and that's just gonna blow out on you down the road and beat the drive shaft up. Beat your fuel. It's gonna beat the fuel tank up. And you can see the play right on this one. If those things break on you, they're gonna bust up your fuel tank. They're gonna mess up your exhaust system. It goes down through here. This thing gets to carrying on and banking around in here, and that's the ball game. Yeah, or it could go up through the floorboard. So it's a dangerous little unit. It's taking all the torque of this truck. So we're gonna go ahead and get this the very first U-joint bolts out of there, as far as that holds this up, the drive shaft to the transfer case, and then move on to the next piece. All right, we got the 4 bolts out of the front part of the drive shaft where it comes into the transfer case, and June's working on this carrier bearing. He broke one of these bolts free here. You got 2 bolts here.
And a clip on the back, and a clip on this one both.
Was that like a fender clip? Yeah, that's all that holds it in, just the hole of the fender clip.
Yep.
Yeah, so you got a fender clip right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. And it slides over the metal with a hole that actually tightens this bolt up. This actual bracket isn't threaded, so I got to call Ford back up, and this one's broken here, and this one's most likely going to break here as well. We're going to go ahead and break that free. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. This will loosen up this carrier bearing. We're not going to take the bolts all the way out yet, because we undid the front. We want a little bit of weight on this one here, and then we're going to go all the way to the back. And we'll see if you guys can see right there the drive shaft going back into that rear right there. And there's 4 more of those other 12-point bolts that you're going to need the 12-point socket for right there. We're going to get this thing dropped down, and I'll help hold this up, and That way I can kind of support the carrier bearing right here in the middle while he takes the 2 bolts out, and we'll just walk this drive shaft out of here. And once we get the drive shaft up and out of here, we're gonna head back to the garage, and we'll show you how to press these out. Hopefully we don't have to heat them up to press them out, but we'll see what it entails when we get in there and we use the machine, the press tools that we have, and we'll show you what kind those are. And you can rent them or buy them. We buy them because we do so much stuff, so we'll get you started in there. Let's get this drive shaft off of here and up inside into the shop. All right, so we got the drive shaft out of this thing, and we've got it. This is the front part. The other part's laying over here. So we're gonna get busy. Basically, the U-joints are in here. You've got one U-joint with 4 clips. 1, 2, 3, and there's one on the bottom side. And we've got this power build kit. We got this years back. It's a kit number 46. And it'll do ball joints, U-joints. It'll do a bunch of different applications to get things off. And it comes with a big, huge clamp type system. Basically, we're gonna take these C-clips, or these little pinch clamps off of here, get them out. I went ahead and sprayed everything yesterday with some PB Blaster. And he's got a pair of needle nose, which is gonna help that, and a screwdriver probably to get those out. And this clamp system will go up in here, and we'll push these caps out. So we'll show you exactly what's going on as he gets those clips out for there. And you can see he's just using those needle nose pliers and that screwdriver. Chisel. And just turn it over one at a time. Some of them are a little harder than others. You might need a smaller screwdriver. Let's see if you can get that. And then he's got one more clip there. Pulling that pinch clamp back and getting that screwdriver right down on the side of it. Once he's got the tension off, you can see right there it gaps out. Once he gets that, then he grabs it again with the needle nose, tries to yank it up. That one's tight in there. There you go, lifted it right out. So we're good. You can see now all 4 sides don't have the clamp in there. Those are your bearing caps right there of the U-joint. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use that tool and push through this bearing cap out, this one in as the other side pops out, and then take that one off and just keep going little by little till we can get that dang U-joint up out of there. So let's get this thing situated and we can show you what's up. One person can do it. I'm gonna team up with June a little bit just to expedite this. And you can see right there, he's just putting that huge clamp on inside one of the U-joints. Let me see if I can get this off of here. And he's got one side of the clamps going into that U-joint top bearing cap, and the other side of that clamp is big enough right there to where that bearing cap will push up into this empty cavity. And you want to make sure it's straight and centered down in there where that cap's going to get hemmed up. You can bang it over a little bit. You can use a hammer or something just to tap it over lightly. You straight or you need, Good. All right, and if you look down in there, I don't know if you guys can see, it's just a perfect fit where that U-joint, the cap, the bearing cap will come out of the top. Ready? It's close, it's pretty straight. So let's lay this back down on this piece of wood here. And we're gonna lube, we have grease on here, but let's just go ahead and lube this up because it's under a lot of tension when you use this clamp. He's got that air gun hooked up. See it gapping out right there. Yep. He maxed it out. You can see that grease fitting right there is pushed up against it. It can't go any further. And then half of this cap's out while this cap's all the way in. So we're gonna go and just spray a little bit more grease. Sometimes you can just grab those with a pair of channel locks and pull them off. We're just gonna go ahead and do the other side now. Once again, you just want to line up that side there. Looks pretty good. So I go just a hair. It's pretty close. Good. Put a little WD-40 down the end of that, and right here, and right here. Hit that thing with the air gun. I'll go ahead and hold this here. We got it up on the wood block, so it just makes it not get scratched up. If you got a work table, that's even better. Now it came all the way out. You can see it right there.
Grease fit.
Yeah, the grease. If we'd have took the grease fitting off, it would have came all the way out. We still might have to, or break it off or whatever.
Whoops.
You can see that bearing cap right there comes off. So let's go ahead and just hook the press back up one more time and get this thing out. It won't take much to get it out of there. Lined up.
All the way.
Huh?
It's all the way now.
Okay, so we're maxed out. He's got a pair of channel locks, so let's see if we can get this one bearing cap out over here. And that's going to give us a little bit more play. Wish we could get this one off right there.
I think you're gonna have to run it back up through.
Yeah. Yeah, the only way to do it is keep this line back up, and we're going to run the press back through and push that one out the other side. You want to get that line back up to go in there with some juice. Lay it on that block of wood, get it flat. Use the brass part if you want. Just get it started. That way, when we hit this side with that press, it's gonna push that right on through there. We used to use just a C-clamp, but it works on brand new ones. But man, this kit comes in handy for ball joints, pressing the ball joints in, and everything else. So I would recommend just spending the money on it. If it's lined up straight, put a little bit of grease on this side. See it come right out into that cavity right there. And we're going to grab it with those vice grips, the channel locks, or whatever you've got. Get that bearing cap off, and boom, freed it up nice. Might have to do the same thing with the other side. Pretty much what you have to do to get them out. We're going to have to run this cap back through this race right here one more time. You want to straighten this up, and it might be out too far, and just hit it with a hammer this way maybe. You can see it's pretty rusty. So you want to make sure it presses out straight and goes in straight and presses back out straight. Yep, let me hit this with a little juice. There. Ready to go. One more time. There she go. Now we can grab that last bearing cap with those vice grips and pull it on out of there. And then the U-joint will pop right out of that knuckle on the drive shaft there. And there you have it. Alright, so on this U-joint, it's giving us a hard time. This is probably one of the hardest ones we've had. It's the cap is cracked up. You can see in there all the roller pins are showing. The head of the cap is literally gone. So we're going to go ahead and cut it down here at the knuckle, right in this area here. Get that one out of the way and push this one back through. So let's go ahead and cut this one up. Alright, we went ahead and just used the cutoff blades real thin and wore this one out. Made by Diablo. They're okay. We like the DeWalt better, but you can see how thin that is. So we went ahead and made our cut. Let's see if June can get this thing officially out of here.
We're going to push it back through.
Yeah, we're going to have to try to push it. Is that one broken?
That's cut all the way.
Yeah, that or we're going to have to cut. We're going to try to see if we can push it back a little bit and cut it there and then knock the whole middle out. And then we'll have just the two caps showing, and we'll have to get those back out of there. That's all we can really do. Go ahead and just cut that other one out. Tricky because the more blade that gets worn off, the less deep it can go. But you can see we've got it out of there now, so we're done with the grinder. And you can see what she looks like now. Now we're just left with the 2 caps. So June's gonna try to haul that thing through. Let's see what happens. Let's set it down on a block of wood. Oh, there we go. Just gonna try to get those bearings, those roller bearings out of there without scoring that cylinder. You don't want to score that cylinder in there. If not, we could put a socket that fits it, and we would use that press tool to go right back in there and push that crap out. So now we're left with this one. We can use the press tool on this. Line that bad boy up. That's the ball game. We're gonna go ahead and clean all this with wire brush and emery cloth. You can see there is some scoring down in there from that dang cap breaking up. So it actually might be a piece of the cap stuck in there. We're gonna have to double check this, make sure there's nothing, no breakage on this drive shaft at all. Get these cleaned up and press the new U-joints back in. All right, so the U-joint's out. June's got a nice clean shop rag there, even a dirty rag, doesn't even matter. And he's just gonna go inside those races there where that bearing cap gets pressed in. Clean them up, look at them thoroughly, check for any scores or nicks or any burrs that could be potentially in there. It's a used truck, so hopefully nobody messed anything up before. I see one little dent right there. Hopefully I don't think that matters with the C-clip. Somebody hit it pretty good when they changed this U-joint out before. But we'll make sure the open part of the C-clip sits right there, and it shouldn't hinder anything. Otherwise, you got to take a chisel and kind of straighten that up. So June's got a roll of emery cloth there, and he's just going to rip off a little piece of it. We got this. Yeah, it's a number 240. We got that at Harbor Freight years back. It was China. Pretty big. Yeah, made in China.
Pittsburgh, baby. That's Harbor Freight, right?
Yeah, Pittsburgh. Made out of aluminum oxide. And he's just going to go ahead and take a light piece of that just to clean it up in there. Don't scrub it, too hard, but clean it up. It's going to make the install go so much easier. And that way he can check for any pitting or any abnormalities that are inside that little channel there, that race where that bearing sits. So. And as you can notice on June's last go, he's going with the grain of that cap. The cap's going to set in this way, so he's taking that emery cloth and he's going up and down, making the lines as he's etching lines, any that are in there, going with the grain of the cap. If you go, you can go side to side at first, but at your very end, make sure you go with the emery cloth, like in this direction here. It'd basically be straight up and down. That way, as that cap's going in, if there are any grooves in there, the cap's going to follow those grooves straight on through. So it looks clean to me. We got off all the little burrs that were in there. There was one burr. He sanded that out. He's got them clean. Look pretty good.
Time to install.
Yeah, and we're ready to install. And you can see down inside there, if you've never seen inside one, it's just a bunch of little roller pins around there. And that's all it is. So you don't want any dust or debris in there. Just go ahead, I'm gonna put the box back on top of this, keep them covered up. And we're getting ready to install the U-joints. We got them on the front part of the drive shaft, but I got the bottom part. What I wanted to show you guys is down inside these little nooks where the snap ring goes down in there. Make sure you clean it out. You either got to use this dentist tool and get it all the grit and grime out of there. If not, that snap ring just might give you a headache and not snap in right. So we went ahead and we took emery cloth and we got all in here. As you can see with the emery cloth, we went in there and I went with the grain of the way that you're going to push the cap in. And we cleaned it up. We used some of that CRC, the brake clean, parts clean. I sprayed all that, cleaned it up, went in there with the dentist tool and got it clean. But on some of these, they've been so long, the way the clip sets in there like this, you'll get a lot of rust where the clip isn't down inside there. So if you go to put the clip back in, it's not going to go right. So what I went ahead and did, and I'll show you guys real quick, I've got this Dremel here, and I got a little cutting disc. I got a pack of 10 cutoff blades that go on this Dremel, and I'm just going to go down inside that gap real lightly, go around the outside. You can set it on slow. It's got your different slow settings. There's just so much stuff in there. I'm just going to go around the inside and pull towards the lip and push towards the back of the lip. Kind of just clean it out like a dentist would. On the tooth, just clean it up. And I flipped it over and I did the same thing to the other side. And this will make sure your snap rings go in 100%. Same thing, I just went, you can see a little bit of that rough just coming out of there. I'm just going to clean that notch up a little bit real lightly. That's it. Run over it with my dentist tool, check for any imperfections. And it feels smooth and good. Feels good. So I'm assured that when I press this last U-joint in here, a little bit right in there, I'm just going to go ahead and clean that out. It'll go in there nice. Yeah, good and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this off, get these U-joints pressed in on the rest of the drive shaft here. I got the front and the back, the front part of the yoke, the drive shaft, the yoke's on, the new carrier bearing's on. So I'm going to get these pressed in and get up underneath this truck and get this truck on the road again. We got our new U-joint. For this particular truck, it's a Moog, and I believe it's a 295 on these. I'm just going by memory. So I'm going to go ahead and I went ahead and I brake cleaned everything here. That way there's no dirt or debris in here. I got new gloves on. I got a little bit of grease on them, but no big deal. And we got the U-joint. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in this end first and just show you how, and you just repeat the process on up the drive line or however many U-joints you're going to replace. You've got the grease fitting in the outside on these Moogs, so we want to make sure that one clip that looks like this, once again, goes on just that one, looks like a heart. That way it won't cover the grease fitting. I'm going to wait to put the grease fitting on last. I'm going to take these caps off gently. You want to take these caps off. I'm actually going to leave 2 on and pull 2 off. You want to make sure those roller pins don't fall on you when you take these ends off, because the grease will suck them out of there. They're good. Set those out of the way. Make sure these other 2 caps are on, and I'm just going to feed this thing through here gently, trying not to hit the sides or score the sides. And while that's in there sticking out, I'm going to get one cap started right here and get it seated in there a little bit. This one's just going to kind of sit there, but it's all clean in there, so we know we're not going to contaminate that oil. And I'm going to hit a little bit of WD-40 here just to help it go in easier. We're going to go ahead and get our press here ready to go. And I'm going to do these by hand. When you get them out, sometimes you got to use the machine. I'm still using the same clamp system that we used before, but I'm just going to do it by hand so I can feel them going in nice and straight and square. You want to keep that shaft up inside there, the knuckle on those bearings. You don't want those bearings to roll at all. So you want to be real careful with that. Just keep that up in there nice and straight. It should go in there with barely any resistance at all. If you get a lot of resistance, then chances are it's going in crooked. Let's go ahead and get this a little bit more spray on here. And you want this definitely straight, right in the middle of that cap there. It's hard because this tool's so dang big. I used to use just a C-clamp back in the day, and I would run it like that. can see it kind of popped a little bit, but it's going in nice. And we're just going to seat it down in there just enough to where we can see the C-clip groove. We can always tighten it up a little bit later. Let's just go ahead and run it like that. I generally like to put the C-clip in now on the one side to make sure it seats. And once again, we got a pack of brand new C-clips. One's going to be that heart-shaped, and you're going to have that little Zerk fitting, that little teeny Zerk fitting that's going to go up in the end of that end cap over there with the flathead screwdriver. We'll get to that later. And where the Zerk fitting goes, it takes this little clip here. The rest of them take this one here. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this thing mounted up in here and hear it click in. We used the Dremel and we notched everything out. Man, that was a good nice hit right there. The Dremel cleaned it up sweet. And we're just going to repeat the process on this side. You can see the shaft in there of the knuckle is nice and straight. The roller bearings are still in there. And we're going to push this in there gently just to get it lined up to that dang shaft. And it's easier said than done. You just want to kind of move it a little bit, and you can move this into that to where we know the bearings are still set, but you don't want to move it in too far, just to line it up and then just go right back to the middle. Let's hit a little bit more juice here and do it one more time, gently. Now I'm just using a 1/2-inch drive socket and extension on this thing here. I can show you guys from further back. And remember, if it doesn't go in nice and easy, just back it out and try again. It should go in. There we go. And we don't want to over tighten it, just snug it down. Let's back it out and see if that clip goes in there. Hopefully the clip snaps in. I've had a hard time with these clips and the debris up in there. Sometimes they just do not want to go in, and you fight with them for hours. So I took everything back apart usually. I clean it out with that dentist tool and that spray. Let's see if we can get this one just to snap on in. It's still giving me a little hard time even though I cleaned this one out. Let's double check this side, see if it's pressed out as far as it can go. And it still doesn't quite want to go in. Let's try to press this in one more time and see if we can get it to go in there. Let's see if pushing it a little bit further. It moved a little bit. You just got to be patient. You know, I'm out here in the garage by myself. I'm just relaxing. I'm just knocking it out. I did some more yesterday on some other trucks and video recorded them. I got another truck here. And we're in down there. Let's push the top and let's see if we hear that snap. Boom. That's what we wanted. So it didn't go all the way in the first time. I reset the clamp assembly and put it back in. It looks pretty good. You can go around the outside and just kind of peen it in there a little bit more. And I'm going to go ahead and tug on this. And it looks pretty good. And I'm actually going to roll this a little bit and make sure it stays in the whole entire way. Someone's been in this yoke before and messing with them, and they can really do a number on these. That's pretty much where I want it. And it'll loosen up and go kind of kick into place once it's on the truck too. So I'm liking that seal. It looks good. I'm going to move on to this one here and get this back on the truck. And you're just going to repeat this process over and over. You're going to take these side caps off to get it back up into this main knuckle here. Gets a little confusing, but it's really not. You're just going to take these side caps off real gently. Double check the rollers, make sure the rollers are in and the seals are here. Set them somewhere out of the way. And you're going to feed this right back in the same exact way as we did before. Just feed it on in there. Get one side out. Get your roller bearings cap back in there. Get it seated in straight. A little bit of spray. Let's use that clamp again. And just be real careful with it. And sometimes you got to kick them to the side or whatever just to get it on there. It'd be fine like that. All right, let's do it. Real nice and gently straight on in. It should go in straight. Easier said than done. These can be a little bit of a bitch. I used to do them on the side of the road. And then lately, this particular drive shaft, someone's been in here and they're just making it incredibly difficult for me. So let's go ahead and went ahead and straightened up the clamp a little bit. Let's see if we can get it. If we can get it like this. Push it on in there. Okay, that's good. That looks good there. Let's go ahead and get one of those new clamps we have. That's the side with the Zerk fitting, so we're going to use the heart-shaped one. Go ahead and get it to snap in there, and hopefully we hear that nice snap sound. Boom. That one's seated up in there nice. I go ahead and just pinch it a little bit with this needle nose. Man, it's good. That one's good. That one's ready for the Zerk fitting. Might as well just go ahead and do that now while we're here. Keep the dirt and debris out of it. You screw that Zerk right on in there. Let me get a bigger screwdriver to set it all the way down in. You want to make sure that screwdriver fits it good, or you'll strip it out. And just set it in there. Boom, that's a done deal. Let's go over to the other side. And we've got that little knuckle shaft sticking out right there. Let's go ahead and get that last cap in there. Make sure it's centered. And I'm going to actually prop this drive shaft up with a rubber mallet that I have. That way it sits nice and straight in there. You see that? Let's go ahead and get that thing seated in there nice and straight. Give it a little bit of that juice. And just repeat this process again and again until we work our way up the drive shaft all the way. I think we have one more to do after this. I'll show you this one. I'm going to do that one on my own so we can get up under this truck and get this drive shaft back in this vehicle and get it on out of here so we can use it. And this one's going in nice, sweet, and straight, no buckling or binding. So I'm already liking that. I'm feeling good about it. I'm going to press it in just until it bottoms out. And just snug it up a little bit. And it'll stop. It won't keep going. It's going to bottom out. Don't force it. You're going to end up breaking the cap right off of that, right top cap. Let's take that last clip. See if we can hear that same snap noise in there. Yeah, and I'm liking it. We're in. Done deal. So we're gonna move on to the front and get this thing on out into the truck. All right guys, so U-joints are in, Zerk fittings are in. I greased everything on the drive shaft here. I don't like these particular needle fitting grease Zerk fittings. You need a needle adapter that goes on the grease gun and you push it in, and it's just BS. I'm gonna put them in for now because I want to get this truck up and running, but I saved a spare one from another kit, and I'm gonna go up to Advanced Auto somewhere and I'm gonna match this thread pitch and everything with this Zerk fitting here, and I'm gonna swap these out. And what I did on these, I did the Zerk fitting, all the grease fittings line up on my drive shaft, so when I go to grease it, there's gonna be a grease fitting here and here. That way I don't have to jack the truck up or spin the drive shaft. And on the other one, I'm going to try to line the other one up as well on the front, because this is a two-piece. That way all the grease fittings line up and I'm ready to go. You've got your one shaft down here at the end, the collar. It's kind of like a spline. It can only go into the very first drive shaft. Is shorter, and it goes up inside there, as you know, if you're working on this F350s. And I got some grease up in there. I went ahead for the carrier bearing. It had some bolts and those little clips that busted off, and I said, you know what, Ford got them for me so fast, I went ahead and just ordered them, and you can see what the brand new one looks like. They're all galvanized, and they're like a clip and a nut all in one, so you just slide that over the frame, and the carrier bearing will just screw right up in there quick. June's not here, so I'm doing it myself today on this white F350, and the number for that nut on the carrier bearing is a W as in William 719260, or 9280-S as in Sam 439, and the bolt that goes up into that little carrier bearing nut, it's like a fender clip, is a 56761-S 439. So they come 2 to a pack on these, 4 to a pack on these, on the clips, and my guys just gave them to me. So we're good to go. I got some anti-seize grease on the bolts that go up into those little carrier bearing clips, so it won't rot out again and rust out if we've got to do this a second go around. We got the Moog 295 U-joints in here. We've got the blue Loctite, which I'm going to use on the rear. Once it mounts up to the actual rear, you got your damper here that goes on the drive shaft. It's almost like similar to a harmonic balancer. It balances it with the rubber gasket in there. And I'm going to use blue Loctite on the front and on the other part of the drive shaft here. And you can see that spline, it's blue. It's already custom coated from the factory, so it won't rust. That way it can keep sliding back and forth. I've got some grease on the other end. Carrier bearings on, and this drive shaft U-joints are in, clips are good. And I'm gonna also use some blue Loctite where this goes up into the back part of that transfer case. So now that I've got it, I'm gonna have June here. I've got some tie wire. I'm gonna go ahead and actually mount the carrier bearing portion first. Put the tie wire up around this big heavy drive shaft up in the front. That way I can slide it in. It should hold up. If it gives me problems back here, I'll tie wire it and then hold it up with my knees, because I don't have the truck up on a lift to get these 4 other bolts in. So I'm gonna go out there and knock this out, show you guys the end result. You already watched the video from the beginning, showed you how to take it off. So I'm gonna get this installed, show you the final product, and we'll be good to go. So let's get out there and get a little bit more dirty before I shut it down today. All right guys, so we're up under the truck now. I got the drive shaft here, 2-piece, and this is the part to the transfer case, the front part of it. And you got your Ford. You can see where the old bracket went. And I went ahead and I got my blue Loctite. All my nuts, or actually my bolts, are all Loctited up, ready to go in those holes, as well as the back. And we've got this one clip. Remember I told you that carrier bearing goes right here. And I put one clip on. I got anti-seize grease on these 2 bolts. And let's put up this other clip real quick. I'm running out of time and camera memory here. And they just go right on there. I remember in the beginning of the video I started talking about just swapping these out, but you know what? Actually, I got these backwards. And the nut's got to go up top there. That way you don't have to hold it with a wrench. June's not here, and that's going to save me a lot of time and effort right here. So let's just get those flipped back around. They're galvanized, and they'll hold up. They'll hold that carrier bearing, so I can install this thing myself here. So let me get these on, get this drive shaft up in here. I have the shorter part with the stub. I'm gonna hang it back there, and then later I'm gonna hook that up. So let me get raw and do this on my own real quick, and I'll show you the finished product. Just make sure you use the blue Loctite here on the transfer case, and you also use it back there on the rear diff on those 4 bolts, those 12-point bolts. If not, it could loosen up on you. They come factory like that. So make sure you use the blue, not the red. The red will not come off later without excessive heat. The blue will zip right out with the air gun. So let me get raw and finish up. All right, so I got the front drive shaft in by myself. June's at home today, and if you look at this, the spline coming out here, there's like they look the same, but there's a heavily painted spline on this side. It almost seems like the groove isn't as deep. If you put your finger in here, it's super deep. On this one, it's not. And if you look up in there, you'll see there's a spline, a flat, like squared out spline area. So that flat spot, and it'll line right up with that not so deep spline there. I've got my tie wire back there, and my bolts are Loctited up with that Permatex right there, ready to go. And that's holding it up, so I don't need June. I'm going to give this to Stella so she can go ahead and show you where that notch is right there on that. So I'm just going to push this up a little bit more until I can get this rear yoke up on there. And I'm hoping I can get up in there a little past where we need to be. It just takes a little finagling. It should line back up. Might have to spin this rear a little bit. And a little bit of coaxing. Yep, there she blew right there. Sometimes I've had to use come along straps to get them up into that front yoke there if they're just being a troublemaker. And that's it right there. So if I can get my bolts back in, even if I can get one through this opposite direction, actually these go through, which is sweet. I can see what I'm doing on this one. On the front I really couldn't. And if I had a little dead blow hammer I could straighten it up, but we'll get it in there. And I've got that safety little piece of wire that I got because June's not here to help hold it. So that'll hold it up so it won't crush down on my chest. And let's see if we can spin this rear a little bit to, I have the truck totally jacked up so the rear will spin free. And this is the hardest part. The whole thing is doing it by yourself. June's not here today. And I got it lined up, but it's a tight squeeze by myself. It really truly is. So let's see if I can get this to drop in, line up, and I can get out of here today. You want to make sure they go in. You don't want to strip the threads. So I'm just going to get one started and be done with it. Like I said, you really should check the manual if you want to torque these down with a torque wrench. I'm not worried about it. I just crank them down with that blue Loctite, they'll stay on there. Ford uses a type of red. It looks red, but it's really like a blue. And I'm not going to crank these all the way down. I'm just going to go ahead and I can show them right here. I just crank it down. I leave it loose. You want all this stuff to go in nice and tight. So I'm going to do the same to this one. I'm not going to bottom any of them down yet. And then I'm going to shake the drive shaft, make sure you can see how we got some movement. I'm going to shake the drive shaft, get those things torqued down. And then last but not least, go back and tighten up that carrier bearing. You can see I've got some slop in it. That allowed me to get this drive shaft in here a lot easier. So we're pretty much almost done. It's a lot easier with two people. A or up on the lift, but I'm doing it old school out in the parking lot, and that's just the way it is. But I'm getting it done. I'm saving a ton of money not taking it to the dealer. This drive shaft was giving me a hard time. The yokes were beat up. Maybe they broke a U-joint while driving before, and it just beat the yokes up. So I had to file them down inside there and hit them with the Dremel. And just, man, it's just been you know, a little bit of a headache. Let me get these two last bolts in, get everything torqued up, get that carrier bearing tight, and then run it up the road for a test. Don't forget to lube those Zerk fittings. Make sure you lube those grease fittings or you're going to be in a world of hurt. They come with a little bit of grease, but it's not enough. Grease them, don't over grease it. Don't have the grease pop out of those rubber seals on those bearing caps. Just maybe hit about 7 pumps, something like that with that grease gun, or hit it if you're at the shop but just don't blow out those little grease dust caps that hold those little bearings in and keep the grease out. All right, guys, so job complete. Drive shafts in on the big white truck there. So I test drove it, no shimmies, everything's good. I'm gonna run it, actually I'm gonna recheck the bolts just for torque afterwards. And I checked them already, I'll check them again later, but everything's good to go. So I'm pretty much out of here. I got things I gotta do and I need this truck. So until next time, keep 2 guys how to. Check out the other videos. Check out the channel, maybe something can help you. Give me an email, I'll respond back. It's me, it'll say Keith, 2 guys how to. Fix it yourself, save that money. I got place to be, you do too, so I'm out. Peace. What's up, Iggy? Talk to him before I shut the video down. Oh yeah. Yep. You're not a pig, you're a lawyer. He's not a pig, he's a lawyer. Peace.
I'm not a pig, I'm a lawyer.